it made me more proud that I got to help somebody bring their child into the world. And I would do it again.
When Hannah first looked into egg donation, she was hoping to help pay for college. What she didn't expect was how much the experience would change her life. Over the years, she's donated multiple times, helped create a family, graduated without student debt, and even discovered a new passion for health and fitness. Now, as she prepares to welcome her own daughter into the world, she looks back on her egg donation journeys with an entirely new perspective. Today, Hannah shares what it's really like to be an egg donor, the questions she had before getting started, what surprised her most about the process, and why helping another family become parents remains one of the most meaningful things she has ever done. Enjoy! Hannah, thank you so much for just being willing to share your story. I want to just dive right in. How did egg donation even first get on your radar?
To be honest, I saw a lot of advertisements on social media for it.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, maybe this is just my age, but it seems like something that was kind of joked about growing up. Like, oh, if you are ever, in a spot, just donate your eggs, or yeah, you could just donate your eggs. And so it was always something that, I
Sure.
don't know, was kind of on my mind, but never something that I actually truly considered
Mm-hmm.
until I decided to go back to school later in life. And I was like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be so cool if I could get my bachelor's completely debt free and help somebody? So when I started seeing things in social media, I was like, oh, this is actually a legit thing. Like, people joke about it, but this is a legit thing that people do and that helps people.
Yeah. When you were first considering it, what questions did you have or concerns, if any?
Uh, Lots of questions, probably. Gotta put myself back in that place. First, I mean, obviously, I wanted to know what the process was going to look like.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the biggest misconceptions going into it is, if I do this, will I be able to have children in the future? It seems a
Yeah.
lot more, when you don't know anything about it, it seems a lot more daunting and scary, um,
Mhm.
which is just funny because even so many people older than me, that was like the first thing they asked when I would tell people that I was going to do it. So that was a really big question. Another big
Yeah.
question was, am I even cut out to do this? What are the requirements? And concerns were just, you know, I don't know, I guess, what if they want to meet me later in life? Am I ready for that? Do I even
Yeah.
want that? I think bigger questions like that.
Yeah. Well, but I think that those are really great questions to have because I think you're right. You can see these advertisements and you're thinking about, "Oh yeah, that's a really great sum of money and I'm helping somebody." So that feels good. But then there are kind of those questions that you think about
Mm-hmm.
as you're processing through it. And it's great to have that top of mind before you have already done it. What ultimately, with all of those questions and, just as you were discerning, what ultimately made you decide to move forward?
I just thought, heck it, let's go. I wanted to go back
Yeah.
to school. And so I talked to my husband, and we were kind of both on the same page, like, let's just see if it's even an option. And so I just
Yeah.
decided to start going through the little questionnaire that I saw on an ad, and I passed the first round. And so it kind of took off from there, but it was more of a just, let's see if we can get through the first round.
As you were going through it, how did people closest to you respond, particularly your husband, when you were kind of thinking about doing this?
My husband was very on board. And it's
That's
just
great.
interesting because through this whole process, I loved my experience, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. And I think it's so cool. It's so great. Such an honor to be able to help people
Yeah.
in this stage of life. And but he just seems like it's like he thinks it's 10 times cooler than I do. Like he tells people all the
Ah!
time, especially with the last family I donated for when we got the email that they were pregnant. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Hannah help somebody, get pregnant." And he tells
Yeah.
people and he thinks it's so cool. And obviously it was a
Oh,
major benefit for both of us that I didn't have any student debt for my bachelor's program. So
sure, sure. Oh, but that is so cool. I love that he was just your biggest cheerleader.
yeah, he really was. And friends, they thought it was cool. They obviously had questions. My family was really supportive. I think my
Mm,
mom, as a mom, was just like questioning whether the procedure was going to be safe,
of course.
or how would that affect my fertility later in life, and just
Right.
things moms would that don't know anything about the process would ask. So she was probably the most concerned, but she was still very supportive.
Yeah. Did anybody have any questions about just that idea of like, hey, there's like this genetic being out in the world that you are related to, but you're not its parent? Like, were they having any questions about that? Was your husband concerned at all? Nothing.
No. Well, my husband wasn't concerned about it because I wasn't
Hmm.
concerned about it. I think
Perfect.
from my perspective, they're going to share my DNA, but I will not be their mother. I'm not the one who carried them in the womb. I'm not the one who raised
Hmm.
them. Obviously, it's a little bit more in depth, but it's similar to sharing blood if you want to just have an easy way to think about it. But
Yeah.
I did have some random people who asked me how I felt about that. And it's funny because one of the people I talked to was actually a surrogate for somebody. And she was like, "Does it not make you feel weird that, like, that's biologically half your child?" And I'm like, "You're the one who had somebody, you had the kid in your belly and felt them move for 9 months, especially since I'm pregnant right now. Knowing that, I was like, wow, I feel like I would feel a lot more connected to the child that I'm helping build than, just sharing biological DNA." So some people did ask me that, but it was never something that concerned me, and especially being pregnant now, I don't have any sort of emotions or attachment. I feel like that was actually a really easy part for me to kind of just
Yeah.
separate and differentiate the difference between what will be my child once I give birth and what was just my DNA, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. That totally makes sense. Was there anything about the process that felt different from what you expected once you were actually going through it?
Well, I will say my first cycle was not private. I went through another
Right. Your first
organization.
cycle was not with egg donor
Yes,
and surrogate solutions.
yes, it
Yes.
was with just an egg bank. And so let me go ahead and say the difference between the two is massive. And if
Yeah. Let's
anybody
get
is
into that.
considering doing an egg donation, I highly, highly recommend going private. When I was
Mm,
talking to the egg bank, they were not trying to dissuade me, but they were saying, if you go private, you're going to have to wait a very long time to be chosen and all this kind of
mm-hmm.
was not an issue. It was actually quite quick, the two that I got when I signed up with you guys.
Sure.
Um, so I think for me, the only thing was in my town, since I'm a little bit smaller, there wasn't a doctor that we could partner with. So I was having to drive to Dallas, which is an hour and 45 minutes away from where I live.
Yeah.
And so it meant a lot of 5 a.m. mornings driving. And
Sure.
I was like, okay, I'm driving to a doctor's appointment. And then I'd be there for 10 minutes for a blood draw. And then I would drive my way back home and go to work. And so that was
Yeah.
really the biggest part that I wasn't expecting. And I would say getting into the process, the questionnaire is very in depth. I mean, there was a lot of medical research I had to do on my end from my family members, talking to family members, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But once I did switch to you guys, there it was insane how much better the process was being private than with an
Oh,
egg bank.
I love
Um,
hearing that. What made you, even after, I mean, it sounds like the process was fine, but
mhm.
was there, obviously it wasn't ideal, it sounds like. What made you still want to come back and try this again?
The procedure went great. I recovered really well. It was super easy. The doctor was nice, the doctor who did it. Um, And so I knew I would do it again, but I was just sitting there thinking, and obviously because I had already signed up, I started seeing advertisements for other companies. And
Sure, sure.
so once I started looking into the difference of private, I was like, this could be a lot easier on me. Like, even just the compensation for gas, having to drive to Dallas back and forth at 5 a.m. and, um, being put up in a hotel the night before the procedure, because that was not the way it happened with the egg bank. There was no sort of, it was kind of just
Yeah.
flat fee and you're in charge of everything else. So I knew I wanted to do it again. I just knew that going forward, I wanted to feel a little bit more like a person rather than a number, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, it
So,
makes total sense. You wanted like, yes, you knew the process, but
mhm,
the process can be done in a way that, like you said, you feel like a person and you're taken care of, and there's
yes,
somebody there following up with you and explaining things and asking questions.
yeah.
And
And
yeah.
I think I really liked the idea that even though I wouldn't know names, I would get some sort of information as to, okay, this is the person who's receiving the eggs. It's this one
Mm,
person, and you get very little background, but it's still some background. Whereas, with an egg bank, you're just showing up, you're donating, and then you don't know what happens after that. So,
yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Was there, has that evolved for you, especially, with an egg bank? I guess you can still do donor sibling registry, but you still wouldn't necessarily know
yeah, they
about,
did not talk to
yeah.
me about donor sibling registry at all
Okay.
with the egg bank. So that was
Yeah.
new when I signed up with you guys. I was like, oh, okay, but this is actually really cool. Like
Yeah.
I love the concept of it. Um,
Yeah. So for
so
those who don't know, can you explain what the donor sibling registry is?
yes, I might do an awful job at this.
No.
But once you match with intended parents, you sign up for donor sibling registry so that once they conceive and they give birth, I believe for 18 years until the child turns 18, you guys can connect and talk, still anonymous, but they
Mhm.
can ask you medical questions throughout the cycle. And one of the people on your team that I was working with, I think she had donated, or she knew somebody who had donated, and said that the intended parents came back later and said, hey, our child has a peanut allergy. So, FYI, if you have kids in the future, you might want to get them tested. And so when
Yeah.
she had kids, she did get them tested. And so I just thought that, that's super cool that you can share information back and forth, because I mean, their child has my DNA, so it is pertinent information for my child, my future children. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's a positivity back and forth, especially, again,
yes.
as like your health evolves, you're able
Hmm.
to, keep them updated on
Yeah.
things, and then vice versa. And for some, it can evolve into a relationship if that, feels right. And for
Hmm.
others, it is just another way to, for them to have that just medical information that every human
Right.
needs.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of you already touched on it, but what was it like learning that one of your donations has already resulted in a live birth?
It was really cool and very
Yeah.
special. With that family, they actually sent me a letter before the
Mm.
donation and just gave me some background information on why they were going through this process, and how much they appreciated me, which made it, I don't know, just so much more sweet and such a cool experience.
Yeah.
And then they sent me one after the donation, after I had gone through. And so once I found out that they were pregnant, I was just over the moon. I would have been over the moon anyway,
Mm.
because it would have been like, oh, yes, like that paid off on both ends. It obviously paid off for
Yeah.
me, but I wanted it to pay off for them as well. But I think especially because I got that communication from them beforehand, it just made it so much cooler. And like I said, my husband thinks it's awesome and he tells everybody. So,
I love it. Oh my gosh. He's like the president of your fan club. This is
yes.
so cute. Oh my gosh. No, that's so great. This episode of Create a Happy Family is brought to you by Chiles and Warren Law Group. If you're building your family through surrogacy, egg donation, sperm donation, or embryo donation, you already know how important it is to have the right team guiding you through every step of the process. especially when it comes to the legal side of family building. Chiles and Warren Law Group is a law practice dedicated exclusively to assisted reproductive technology law. They've helped thousands of intended parents, surrogates, and donors navigate this process with compassion, clarity, and experience. Whether you're entering a surrogacy agreement, reviewing a donor agreement, or finalizing parentage in Texas, their team understands both the legal complexities and the very human side of these journeys. To learn more or schedule a consultation, visit chileswarrenlawgroup.com. And if you reach out, be sure to let them know you heard about them on Create a Happy Family. What do you think after going through 3 cycles and
Mhm.
then 1 with an egg bank and then 2 with an agency? What do you think people often misunderstand the most about egg donation now that you can speak from experience?
I think people still think it's really scary, and it's
Yeah.
not. Um, and I know that there's probably some people who, I've had some people say, well, you can't control, which family the eggs are going to, like that matters to me. And so I think there's just, I don't know. I think there's just a lot of unknowns for people who haven't been through the process, that they
Sure.
just don't understand how beautiful it really is,
Mm.
and that it's not scary. And yeah, I think people just think it's like it's this massive thing, and it is. I mean, not everybody can do it, which is, cool in its own respect. But it's not just this big scary thing, you know.
No, no, no. You're so right. You're so right though. It is big, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It
Right.
doesn't have to feel scary if you
Yeah.
go about it with, the right support, which you had your personal support and then you had the experience of,
Yeah.
the bank versus the agency. What made it less scary for you?
Definitely my support system. The fact that my husband was very supportive the whole time, family and friends were
Yeah.
supportive. But also what made it less scary was just, and I'm not trying to be too cheesy, but really the people that I worked with you guys made it so much
Hmm.
easier. The communication difference between the egg bank and working with you guys was just so
Mm-hmm.
smooth. People checked in on
Mm.
me during the whole process, after the process, and it was multiple different people that I had, different people that I had talked to throughout, getting registered and
Right.
all that kind of stuff. Checked on me, and just made sure I had everything that I needed. So it was, I felt really well taken care of during the whole thing. Let's just say that.
Yeah, well, good because again, it's a big process and
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean it's unmanageable.
Right.
But you shouldn't feel alone during the process. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
like, "Okay, great, now figure it out."
Yes.
What would you say is maybe I mean, again, you experienced both donating from the bank and then the agency. What would you say was maybe just the biggest difference for you and maybe why would it be worth it to hey yeah you might have to wait a little bit longer to get chosen or just that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I think it's just the treatment. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to use the term white glove because it's not, that just doesn't seem like the right. It's the phrase that's coming to mind. I don't know. Maybe we'll chalk that up to pregnancy brain. But it's just it's so much nicer.
It's personal.
Yes, yes, it is very
We know
personal.
your name.
Yes. You're communicated with the whole time, and not everybody has to drive almost 2 hours back and forth for their appointments, but for me, since I did, it was nice, having that travel compensation,
Sure.
um, and um, just being put up in a hotel, because with my last donation, where I donated was actually 5 hours away from where I live, and so they put
Oh
my
wow.
yeah, they put me and my husband up for 5 to 6 days, in the hotel so that we could be right there, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And it makes the process a lot easier mentally
Mhm.
and physically.
Yeah.
in that regard, because you're not trying to, you go into the contract saying, okay, I know I'm going to make this amount from this egg donation, but you're not having to subtract, okay, well, if I have to get a hotel and I have to do math, or I have to do math, if I have to get gas and I have to get food, and like, you know, what you're intending to use the money for, you start subtracting at an egg bank what you're going to be paying for all of these
Sure.
things that aren't included and covered. And obviously, that's not the case there. And so I really appreciated that. But I think the biggest thing for me, it just makes it special knowing that somebody chose you and
Mm.
you know that they're going to receive the eggs. Like, you're helping this family, whether you see them, you know their name, for some reason they chose you, and that's the person who's getting your eggs. And that just feels a lot, I don't know, it makes me more proud, and it feels a lot cooler than just, here you go, somebody can eventually choose my eggs.
Sure.
So, and that's
Sure.
not to dog on people who go through egg banks. I think it's obviously still beneficial, and there's
Absolutely.
so many reasons why families would choose to go that route. But for me as an egg donor, I just much preferred going private. And again, there really wasn't a super long wait. I mean, there's a lot of people who find themselves in this position, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think there's a need for egg donors, and I don't. It didn't take a long time for me. So
Yeah. Yeah. It was worth it. It was
yeah.
worth it. Yeah. When you think about your decision to become an egg donor now that you're a few years removed
Hmm.
and now you have your own baby on the way, which again, just to reiterate, donating your eggs does not affect your fertility,
Yes.
clearly. Uh, has your perspective changed at all from how you felt at the time of donating?
um. Yeah, I would say being pregnant now, I feel more honored that I got to do
Mm,
this, and you know, knowing, obviously it didn't affect my fertility, but if I can, be honest, this was my first kid, and I think a lot of people don't talk about how often or how long it can take to get pregnant with your first kid.
yeah.
And so in the months while we were waiting, I kept thinking about my experience, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and I just, how heartbroken I could be after, trying for 6 to 7 months. I was like, man, people find themselves in this position where they know they can't, or they've been trying for 2 years, or they've been trying for three
Mm,
years. And I don't know, it made me, it was really humbling, and it made me more proud that I got to help somebody bring
mm,
their child into the world. And yeah, it's been a lot sweeter since getting pregnant, just thinking about it.
mm.
And I would
Yeah.
honestly, I would do it again. I would still do it. If I had all the
Yeah.
time and in the world, I would do it again. So,
Oh, I love that. If someone is considering doing egg donation, what were maybe some of the questions you were glad that you asked or maybe wished you had asked sooner?
um, that is a great question. I honestly, I probably would have asked about the procedure a little bit more, because it
Yeah.
wasn't scary, and it was very quick. All three times, I think I was under for maybe 10 minutes. But
Stop.
yeah, I would have asked about the procedure and the recovery, which you guys do cover. Um, but you know, it was easy, it was fine, but I would have wanted to know, going into it, okay, what is this going to look like, for my work schedule, my workout schedule,
Sure.
my school schedule, anything like that. Um, and maybe a little bit more about the medication, because obviously, you have to take medication. I don't think prior to watching, the videos on how to do it, that I fully expected how timely they needed to be. So that was something,
Sure.
when you're on the medication, they have to be taken at certain times and refrigerated and, whatnot. So thankfully with going private, there's a little bit of wiggle room about when the process would start, because we had to, for my last donation, we moved around a couple weddings so that I wasn't trying to travel with a cooler full of medicine and running to my car to try and
Sure.
inject myself. So maybe just what that process would look like. Um, and I think maybe at the very beginning, just understanding how much information you have to have on your family
Mm.
medically, so there's a lot of people around me who are like, well, maybe I should do it, or this and this and this, and I'm like, okay, but does anybody in your family have a history of this and this and this and this, and things that you have to consider.
Right.
And a lot of friends are like, well, yes, they have this and this, and I'm like, that might
Sure. Breast
knock you
cancer on
right
my
out of the
mom's side,
running.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I would have just wanted to know that up front, it's a really long process to even get approved. Knowing all of the medical history, having to do the blood test, the drug test, the this test and this test. It's a long process, as it should be. You want to make sure people are a good fit, but that was the hardest part, honestly, was getting through the initial um, sign up and getting accepted, because there's just so many things that you have to do.
Oh, 100%. I don't think if you were to ask me, "Oh, what's the medical history of your grandparents?" I don't think I would know off the top of my head. I would
Yeah.
really have to think about it. And just and like you said, it's anything. It's medical history, it's psychological history,
Hmm.
it's just all of this, and it branches, and yeah, it's a whole
Yeah.
process.
It's a lot. It is a
Yeah.
lot.
But it's something that is definitely, it can feel overwhelming, but again, obviously is so worth it, but you can
Yes.
take it in bite-sized pieces,
Yeah.
especially if you have that support.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're not in a rush, I understand a lot of people sign up for egg banks because maybe they are in a time crunch, or they just want to get going. But if you're like, no, I want to go private. I want to be with the right family. I want to be treated, you know, with respect, and just have a really good experience, then
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, expect the process to maybe take 6 months before you get connected
Yeah.
and ready to donate. I mean, because it took me like 3 months before I even got approved, just because of so many things in the process.
I think it is so funny what you said about the medications, because I do think you see it, you see egg donation, and I think, and even for surrogacy, you see surrogacy and you're like, yeah, I can be pregnant, sure, that's no problem. And you don't think about, like you said, you have to have this medical history, there's a whole
Mm.
application process, there's all of these testing, but then yeah, you do have this whole medication factor that, albeit it's not too terribly long, but
Yeah.
it has to be done right.
Yes, it does. Very thankful that for a period, my husband was in nursing school. He didn't wind up wanting to go through with that, but he was. And so when it first came in, I was like, what do I do with this? I mean, obviously
Sure.
there's the videos, but there's also something comforting of somebody in next to you saying, okay, yes, do it like this, do it like this. And so
Uh-huh.
he did the first few for me quite a few times. But by the second donation, third donation, I mean, I was just fast, wiping everything down, injecting myself. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
hurt.
Yeah.
And once you do it, you're like, okay, you just have to get over the fear of sticking yourself with this needle.
Mhm.
And it really becomes so easy, and you just figure out what you're doing, and it's completely fine. But I think
Yeah.
it's a scary thing going into it. When it first got delivered for my first donation, I
Oh,
was
like,
like,
the box
what
is
do I
huge.
do with this? And you have to
Yeah.
keep all of these needles and empty bottles. And yeah, it was just funny, because I guess even though I was an adult, I was so naive. I was like, wait, I can't just like throw this away. And my husband was like, no, you can't just throw this away. You have to keep the
No,
needles and
sharps
turn them
box,
in.
please. Yes.
Yes. So little things like that. But yes, the medicine, daunting at first, but it's it's so easy. And it's funny because there was somebody somewhat connected to me who was going through IVF,
Mhm.
friend of my sister, and she called me and she was like, "How do I do this? We're freaking out." And I was like, "I can come over and help if you need." But I was able to talk
Oh my
them through it on
gosh.
the phone. Like, this is super easy. You
Yeah.
do it like this. And so, that experience will help me even in the future.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. That's so funny. So for my first surrogacy, it was my husband that did my injections, my
Hmm.
progesterone shots. And then second go around, I was just like, I don't have time to wait on you. Like I have things
Yep.
to do. It's so funny how like you just easily just
Yes, you
you
just get
you get
used to
over it.
it. And I will say maybe
Yeah.
something, if somebody's listening to this and they're considering it, obviously when you're on the medication, you have to slow down. Like, I wasn't able to work out for a couple weeks during this
Mhm.
process, which
Mhm.
I don't know why I didn't think about that going into it. So you're not able to do that, but it doesn't hurt. You just feel very full, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, you just walk
Yeah.
around feeling like your uterus
I
is
mean, you're bloated.
really heavy. Yeah, very
Yeah.
bloated. But it wasn't painful, and it's only for like a week and a half, so it's
Yeah.
not a big deal. And I will say, which is so funny, like donating my eggs obviously helped me, you know, graduate with no student debt. But
Right.
when I first signed up, I think this is cool, so I'm going to talk on it. I was actually
Yeah.
slightly over the BMI. And so they were like, okay, well, you know, you just need to lose like 8 to 10 pounds and then come back. And
Mhm.
that was something that I had been wanting to do anyway. And because I had a purpose other than just myself, um, I started and I lost like 30 pounds before my first donation. And that led to
Wow.
just that just set me on a journey of fitness and health that I had always wanted to be on, but never could do just for me. But since I was doing it
Mhm.
for something else, it became so cool. And then I fell in love with it. And I actually got like certified as a personal trainer on the side. And so it
Oh
just,
my gosh.
it was the domino effect of having to lose 8 to 10 pounds, but wound up doing more and then just transitioning into something new that I never thought that I would be able to do. And so that was kind of cool too. Just seeing how it affected me in a positive way,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, again, just what a fun, you see an advertisement and or, people joke about it because
Hmm.
it's, hey, I'm, debt free or,
Yeah.
whatever your, original thought process may be whenever
Yeah.
you're even looking into it. And then to all of a sudden see kind of the spider web of just that ripple effect of how
Hmm.
it is such a benefit to you and then obviously to others.
Yeah.
If someone is considering becoming an egg donor but just feels nervous or unsure, what would you want them to know?
Um, that it's super normal to feel nervous because it is a new
Yeah.
process and you have to sign a lot of documents.
Mm.
And you may read a lot of things and be like, well, what if that happens to me? But it's such a
Yeah.
low percentage. They have to list the things that could happen, but everybody is so attentive. The videos about how to
Mhm.
do the medication are so, you know, they're very instructive and well thought out. And
Yeah.
once you get through that first round, you'll probably feel like I could do this again and again and again. So very normal to feel nervous, but once you get into it and through it, you're just going to be so thankful that you did. And it's not as scary
Mm.
as it seems. People are there for you to ask questions and they're going to
Yeah.
answer you very thoroughly and help you through everything. And it's it's not as daunting as it sounds. It really
Mhm.
isn't. So, I thought the
Yeah.
medication and the donation was the easiest part.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Any other words of advice that you would want to give?
If you're thinking about it, go for it. you know
Yeah.
you might as well see if your medical history, your family's medical history even qualifies you, and if it does, I mean, even
Mhm.
if you only do it once, I think it's worth it because you get
Yeah.
to help a family and you get compensation for whatever you need to to spend it on, but even if you only do it once, it's an experience that not very many people can have. I think
Hmm.
going through the medical history assessment made me realize that, like,
Yeah.
not just anybody can help, not just anybody can sign up and do this. And so if you
Hmm.
can and you're interested, it really is really super cool and kind of, not one in a million, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
there's a
it does.
smaller
It takes a
percentage
special
of
person.
people. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. For sure.
yeah, I would just say go for it. It will definitely pay off in the end, I think.
Mm, yeah. As you're prepping for your own, baby to enter the world, have you thought about how you're going to talk to your little one about just your experience as a donor?
Yeah, I have. I haven't settled on quite how I would talk to them about it yet.
Sure.
But it is something that, when I first started, my husband and I were even talking about, because this was, 3 years ago. I think when I did my first one, or when I at least started. And it was just, yeah, we're going to have to explain to them that maybe one day somebody could reach out to mom that we don't
Yeah.
know, and say that they share DNA, or, because of this process. And I don't know. I don't know how exactly I would say it, but I've had to explain it to my nieces and my nephew, and they were like, "Oh yeah, cool." They're like 10, 8, and 3, so my nephew probably didn't
Yeah.
understand it at all. But my nieces were like, "Oh yeah, that's actually super cool that you get to do that." So I'm kind of hoping, it'll just be an easy conversation with my kid. And I don't know. My husband and I are both kind of at the point where if somebody did reach out to us, we wouldn't that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like, if they wanted to know who I
Yeah.
was, I think that's normal, and I think that's completely fine. So, I think
Hmm.
prepping, the important thing would be prepping, it's a girl, prepping my daughter that somebody could reach out, and that it's not a scary or weird thing. It's just
No.
somebody may want to know who shares the DNA, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as long as
Well,
it's
right.
not a weird situation, then it would be great. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Well, right, like you said, it's, the cool thing about the donor sibling registry is you are getting medical information. So if anything,
Hmm.
it's just somebody wanting to find out more
Yeah.
about, hey, like, do you really like, I don't know, art? Do you
Yeah.
really like, do you have this major craving for tacos? And it's just part of their identity and has,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's just cool.
Yeah. And I really appreciated everybody on the team prepping me, that even, there may be things signed and all this kind of stuff. It is something you have to consider, which I think is also important and it gets talked about in the psych evaluation, that once that kid turns 18, because of the age that we live in with 23andMe and all of these things,
Sure.
there's never 100% guarantee
There's no such
that they're
thing as
not going to find
anonymous
you. Yeah,
anymore. Yeah,
yes,
there's no such
exactly.
thing as anonymous. It's just
So,
unidentified. They just don't know
yeah.
your name, but there's no such thing as anonymous.
So that would actually be my biggest advice to somebody. If you absolutely do not want somebody to reach out to you in life, don't do it. Like, just don't do
Yeah.
it, because it can't. And it's talked about multiple times throughout the process how that can't be guaranteed.
Mhm.
So if that's something that is an issue for you or for your family, then it's probably best to not do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we knew that going into it, and we were like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, right? Like it's part of the process. And it's, not only are you signing up to help a family have a baby, but ultimately that maybe that baby is going to want to find out just a little
Yeah,
bit more about just that biological aspect of who they are as a person.
yeah.
And that's it.
And I think it
Yeah.
hits a little bit more from home, because right before my husband and I got married, we found out he had a brother who was given up for adoption that we had
Oh,
no idea about.
wow.
Obviously different, because he was given up for adoption. But he found our family, and we have a great relationship with him. And so I think it just made me a little bit
Yeah.
more open, that if somebody just, even if there's no relationship, they just want to see me, talk to me, and then that's it, they got their answers. I think that just made me more open because I saw how his brother had been seeking for so many years to just know,
Yeah.
who he came from and all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of helped me warm up to the idea. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And again, right, like you said, it's not so much that this brother didn't have a wonderful life with his parents.
yeah,
It was
no,
just
he
I just
did.
wanted to
Yeah,
know more.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, just again, thank you so much, Hannah, for one, just everything that you've done as a donor, and then
yeah.
just for being vulnerable and sharing your story. I have one last question for you, and it's a fun
Okay.
one.
All right.
So I am a tried and true coffee addict. Coffee and I,
Okay.
we love each other very much. And I always love to ask the question, what has filled your cup today? Literally or figuratively, what has been the thing to fill your cup?
Probably that I still because I've my husband and I have taken this week off to work on things.
Yes.
So today was just slow, and I did get to have my coffee, and I love that I love coffee again because for a few months there being pregnant, I did not like coffee.
Yeah.
So I love that I can drink it again, and we ate Chick-fil-A for breakfast. So small
Love
things
it.
here and there because we've just been, in a busy time and a stressed out time, and I love that I got to have a slow morning with my
Yeah.
husband, and we're just going to go work on our nursery and continue to
Hmm.
love this child. So,
Yes. No, that is so it is. It's those slow down times that
yes.
are, I mean, they really are. They're precious, especially in the stage that you're in as just all of the fun is continuing to happen and coming up and all of the things. I am also very happy for you that you were able to drink coffee. I think
Yes.
my body was very nice to me because anytime I was pregnant, I did not want coffee. Just
Mm,
refused. I wasn't even craving it. And it was quite literally post delivery, bam, all of a sudden I wanted coffee. So I think, yeah, I understand the desire to want it and not be able to have
I
it.
just
So yeah.
needed some sort of energy, but like the smell of it was just awful for me. But I will say I'm due right
Right.
around the time that the pumpkin spice latte comes out. So it's on my birth plan that once she arrives, somebody's getting me a pumpkin spice latte.
I love it. I love it. This is my plan, my kind of plan, girlfriend. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Awesome. Okay, well, Hannah, again, thank you so much, and
Yeah.
just for everything that you have done and sending all of the easy labor vibes. I know we've got a little while,
Yes.
but just sending all the good vibes
Thank
as you get
you.
ready for your daughter.
Thank you.